Before I start, I want to give all honors and glories and praises to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Maha, Bakachodash, Yahweh, which is the one only true name of the Heavenly Father, Yahweh Shai, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, but his one only true name is Yahweh Shai. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, because those are the men who I've learned this truth from through the Spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai. Peace, blessings, salutations to the hopeful elect. And shalom to you, sincere brothers scattered abroad, pushing forth this word in truth and sincerity. I am the brother Mashiach Arazakah from the servants of Yahweh Yahweh Shai Camp, Las Vegas, Nevada branch. And pretty much this lesson is going to be titled as Adam and Eve took on the philosophies, which was the forbidden fruit. Adam and Eve took on the philosophies, which was the forbidden fruit. And the reason why I'm going over this lesson for those of you that are new in the truth, because when you're new in the truth, you still have the belief of the Christianity 501c3 charter ways, where you believe that Eve was really beguiled of an actual snake and she bit an actual apple, and Adam bit an apple, and then they were kicked out of the Garden of Eden. That's not what that is, really. That's false doctrine. She didn't bite no apple. She didn't actually eat an apple. All right, it was the philosophies. So we're going to prove that in this lesson. All right, so this is Genesis 3 and 6. Lord willing, this lesson is edifying. It says, and when the woman saw that the tree was good for food. So I'm going to read this whole thing, and then I'm going to break it down through the Spirit. This is Genesis 3 and 6. It says, and when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree, it says, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof, and did eat, and gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat. So when you read in Genesis 3 and 6, all right, and you go into where it says, and when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, all right, these trees were actually talking about people, all right. It was talking about nations of people, because Adam and Eve were not the only two people. All right, there was nations already there in that time with them. There was already people there. There was people there. Adam and Eve were not the only two people. All right, and that's a deception too that they teach in Christianity, because they teach that Adam and Eve were the only two people on the earth. No, there was other nations there. There was nations there. There was nations of people there. There were other people there. All right, so let's read again. It says Genesis 3 and 6. It says, and when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise. All right. This is talking about the trees, which were actually people. Again, this is actually people. And it says, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof, and did eat, and gave also to her husband with her, and he did eat. So we're going to prove that those trees were actually people. This is Mark 8 and 24. Mark chapter 8 and verse 24. And it says, and he looked up and said, I see men as trees walking. See? So these were actual people. All right? Those trees were people. All right? It's symbolic. It was meaning people. All right? So let's read it again. It says, and he looked up and said, I see men as trees walking. Okay? So those trees that Eve saw that was desirable, right, that looked good, was what? Men. All right? The philosophies of those men. Because there was more than two people there. There was more than two people there. All right? There were nations of people there. So let's go back. This is Genesis 3 and 6. It's Genesis 3 and 6, okay? Genesis 3 and 6. It says, and when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof, and did eat, and gave also unto her husband, and with her he did eat. All right, so the tree that she saw was Esau. All right, Esau had color back then. All right, so that tree, right, this was just which the philosophies he took of, right, was Esau. All right, Esau was that serpent. All right. Esau is the so-called white man today. All right. The ideology, all right, that he was teaching her was good to her eyes. All right, which was the philosophies. All right. So that fruit was the philosophies. Esau was there in that time, but he had color then. All right. That serpent was Esau. All right. So let's read it again. This is Genesis 3 and 6. It says, "And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof and did eat, and gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat." All right, so those philosophies, all right, was that fruit, was that forbidden fruit. All right, and she took on the philosophies of Esau. All right, Esau was that serpent, man. He was that serpent. She didn't bite no apple. She didn't bite no pear. She didn't bite no watermelon. All right, it was philosophies. We're gonna prove that too. This is Salakia. This is oops, wrong one. Salakia on that. Hosea, and I think it's 10 and 13. Yeah, Salakia. 10, chapter 10 and verse 13. This is Hosea 10 and 13. It says, "Ye have plowed wickedness." It says, "Ye have reaped iniquity." It says, "Ye have eaten the fruit of lies," right? "Because thou didst trust in thy way, and in the multitude of thy mighty men." So when you plow something, you're what? You're sowing something. When you plow it, you're sowing. All right. That word plow, it means to prepare for the planting of seeds, to plant something. So they were plowing wickedness. All right, which was off of the philosophies. That's what they were plowing. When they took on that fruit, that forbidden fruit, it was the philosophies. All right. So the philosophies of lies, that's what it was. The philosophies of lies. All right. The fruit of lies were the philosophies. That's what that forbidden fruit was when you read in Genesis 3 and 6. So it wasn't an actual apple that they ate. It was the philosophies. It was the philosophies. This is Galatians 6 and verse 7. Galatians 6 and 7. And it says, "Be not deceived, Yahweh is not mocked, for whatsoever a man soweth, he shall also reap." Meaning you don't lie, all right? You don't lie to yourself, or you don't let no one lie to you, all right? So if you sow something, if you sow false doctrine, if you sow false religions, all right, then you're going to reap the same. So Eve took on the philosophy, which was of that wickedness, the false beliefs. All right, so Eve gave it onto Adam, and he fell for it. He took into it. All right. So basically, they took the fruit of lies. All right, it was not of any natural fruit, such as an apple, a pear, or watermelon. All right, it was actually the philosophies. All right, the philosophies given by Esau, who was that serpent. All right. So let's get Job 4 and 8. This is Job 4 and 8. It says, "Even as I have seen, they that plow iniquity and sow wickedness reap the same." Meaning what? Taking on the fruit of lies, sowing wickedness. So when you plow iniquity, which is sin, you're putting those seeds of wickedness in your mind. All right. You're going to reap, meaning gather the fruit of false philosophy, of nonsense, of false religion. All right. They basically took on the philosophy of Esau, basically. So that's what that forbidden fruit was that they took. It was the philosophies, man. All right. Got two precepts, and I'm gonna wrap this up. This is Matthew 7 and 17. So like Matthew 7 and 17. It says, Matthew 7 and 17. It says, "Even so, every good tree bringeth forth good fruit, but a corrupt tree bringeth forth evil fruit." So the Lord plants in your minds, right, and in our spirits, that good tree. All right. The Lord does that. So the Lord plants in our minds and in our spirits that good tree. All right. Because you got bad trees. The bad tree is basically the false religion, false doctrine. All right, those that's the bad tree. That's the forbidden fruit. That's the wicked. That's the wickedness. All right, that's the plowing of wickedness. All right. So this is Genesis 3 and 6 again, and we're gonna wrap it up with this. This is Genesis 3 and 6. Salakia. Genesis chapter 3 and verse 6. It says, and when the woman, right? Salakia. It says, and when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof, and did eat, and gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat. So again, Adam and Eve basically took on the philosophies, right? Eve took on the philosophies and gave it on to Adam, which was the fruit of lies, given by the serpent, who was Esau. It was not an apple. It wasn't an apple. It wasn't a watermelon. It wasn't a pear. It was the philosophies. All right. So when you read in the scriptures, this is why you really gotta understand, through the Spirit, right, given by Yahweh Bashim Ashai through His prophets, you have to get an understanding of the scriptures, because if you don't, you're gonna have a misconception. You're gonna have what's that word? You're gonna have a stumbling block. All right, in a ministry, and you don't want that, because the Christianity way, they taught us of an apple and an actual snake and her biting an actual fruit. No, it was the philosophies. So Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. I want to give all honors and glories and praises to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Yahweh Kakodash. And Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. So again, Adam and Eve did not eat, an apple. It wasn't an apple. It was actually the forbidden fruit, which was the philosophies. It was the fruit of false, the fruit of lies. All right, false doctrine, false, philosophy, basically. So Lord wants that was edifying. Till next time I say, Shalom.